Welcome to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Lorianne Casdia. Our goal here at Healthy Lifestyle is to inspire, educate, and empower you to fulfill a healthy, emotional, spiritual, and physical life so you can feel empowered to live the life you have always wanted and dreamed. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am a #1 international bestseller, author, life and business transformational success coach, illuminating and empowering others to find and embrace their life purpose, live their highest vision, and forge a strong foundation to soar to success. Find out more information at ldcstrategies.com or loriannecasdia.com. Today on our show, we have the beautiful Ellen Craine. Ellen is a private practice as a local clinical and macro social worker in the state of Michigan. She owns Craine Counseling and Consultants Group and has over 25 years experience working with couples, family groups, and individuals in a variety of capacities. She has been a divorce and family mediator, a parenting coordinator, working with high conflict, no parents, or co-parents rather, to improve their ability to co-parent more effectively. Ellen Craine is a relationship and life coach, incorporating the success principles with her social work experience. Ellen, welcome to the show.
Hi, Lori. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're here. Now, what people don't know is we wrote a book together, Women Who Dream, that went #1 international bestseller, and you are one of the co-authors in here, co-creating with me.
How exciting is that?
Oh my goodness, it's amazing. It's just amazing. And what a wonderful process. And your chapter is called Living My Dream Through the Fear, which I absolutely resonate with, because one of the things in doing my chapter is I had to jump the hurdle of my fear of writing and just living life by doing that, and so empowering when you face fear head on, don't you think?
Totally. Yes. And, facing fears can either set you back, or if you're able to recognize that you have a fear and figure out how to reset yourself, you can then move forward through it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you have a private practice. You're a licensed clinical and macro social worker. So what is your philosophy? I know we're talking about fear, but what is your philosophy around loss and grief? Because in your chapter, you speak of the grief and the challenges you had relative to your son. Tell us and the listeners more about that.
Yeah. So my philosophy around loss and grief contains many pieces to it. The first is that in our society, when we talk about loss and grief, we talk about them as one thing. And my philosophy is to try to help people separate and recognize that we have many losses that we may experience in our lifetime, and those losses trigger a grief reaction. So that's all the emotions, all the feelings, the behaviors, etc., that we have as a reaction to the loss that we experience. Now, what I will say, the other piece of that is that we don't all go through it in the same way, and we don't necessarily go through it in any chronological way. We go through it in a way that is logical for who we are, what our life experiences have been, maybe our culture that we've grown up in, our religious training, what our experiences were like in our families growing up. And so the bottom line is there isn't one way to experience a loss and to go through grief. And the other piece of that is that grief is a lifelong journey. We don't just, quote unquote, one day get over it.
Yeah, correct.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, so it actually gets incorporated into who we are, right?
Absolutely, because we bring the past into the present, and how we navigate the present then can become a guide for our future.
Yes, exactly. And some of the tragedy, the loss, the grief that I know I've had in my past and my clients have had in their past end up being something that I know I'm so grateful for, because it helped me transition because of the choices I made, helped me transition into who I am today. So as a direct result of that, I am the person I am today, and I'm really very happy, quite frankly.
Right. And I like what you said, Lori, about it being, these losses are a life transition, and it's what we make of it. So right? How do we handle that life transition? So, so just to kind of help, listeners understand when we say loss, typically, and I just did a survey in my Facebook group called Living Through Loss and Grief, asking participants in the group what different types of losses that they've experienced. And I put up there, some broad categories. For example, death of a family member, death of a friend, death of a pet, right? Job loss, moving. And what was interesting to me, though somewhat not surprising, was that the number 2 things that people commented were that it was death of a family member and death of a pet. Yeah. The top 2 losses. And so what I know is that people tend to think of loss around death, and I want people to understand that loss can be so many other things, including diagnosis of an illness. So you mentioned, my chapter in Women Who Dream, where I start off talking about my younger son, who's now 19, who was diagnosed with pediatric cancer at the age of 11, so 8 years ago, right? Yeah. And then all the losses that are around that, loss of a normal childhood, loss of spending time with my other sons, loss of spending time with my spouse, living in a hospital, loss of living, the life I thought I was supposed to be living, right. As a mother, as a wife of 2 children. And then fast forward, the other thing I talk about in my chapter in Women Who Dream is losing my husband to a brain tumor. Right? Yeah. And then I get into a little bit of my journey, my first year as a breast cancer, and I'm going to use the word now, thriver, right. Because I do think of myself as more than just a survivor of breast cancer. I do look at myself as a thriver, but it could be even other things like our young children going from kindergarten to first grade. Yes, correct. Going off to college, transitioning, and I've been watching some of my friends on Facebook, and their kids are going from elementary school to middle school. I have a 22, almost 23-year-old who has recently graduated college, got a job, and is now, moving out of the house. So those are all life transitions, sure, right? That also have loss tied to them, even though they're potentially positive things, but they all still can trigger grief reactions. Sure. Well, because it's a shift. It's a shift in what we have known, and it's now a new knowledge of what will be. And so that shift, and that's why and I admire you so much for everything that you've been through, the achievements you have made through all this, and you continue to just really take leaps and bounds. This is actually your second book. You're not a first timer. This is this is not new to you in any way, shape, or form. And I love the fact that you keep sharing your experiences and continue to put yourself out there and continue to show people, yes, you can continue on. And there's nothing greater than serving your former self. And I know that my clients are definitely my former me. And that's where we're finding a pattern, at least I am, among the diagnosis and the data collection that I'm doing. Everyone that I'm working with is serving their former selves. Their clients are their former selves. So, and that's just a pattern that makes sense, right? What we've gone through, we have the experience and knowledge, so we can then share and help people from going to have to slam into hurdles as opposed to jumping over them. And we clearly, you and I both help coach people to jump over the hurdles, or in my case, sometimes I help them walk around it. There's no need to jump if you don't have to. Right. So help me. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, and it's really about, like you said at the very beginning, it's about maybe even sometimes facing it head on and walking through it and knowing that you can't get around it. Yeah. You just have to put one foot in the other and walk through it. That's one of the things that I learned through my breast cancer journey was that I couldn't avoid what I was going to go through. Yeah. And so I had to start looking at it in terms of phases and taking it one baby step at a time.
Yes.
As I was walking the journey.
Well, it's kind of like eating a pizza. We don't get a pizza and eat the whole thing in one bite. We have to slice it into slices and take a bite of that slice. And that's how we really have to address life. Life is here, and we're going to take a slice at a time, and we're going to take a bite or a baby step at a time in order to progress, forward. And I think that actually helps the journey. I think that helps the process of healing, because we're not putting so much pressure on ourselves to be completed with that particular process. Let me just shift back for a second.
Sure.
Give us the definition of what is loss and grief.
Yeah. So like I said earlier, loss can be anything that is a change for you. It could be losing a job. It could be a divorce. It could be a relationship separation. It could be a life cycle change. It could be now, you're going from your 40s to your 50s or your 50s to your 60s. Some people perceive those life changes as losses, right? It could be your kids going from, they were stay at home with you and now they're going to, kindergarten or starting elementary school or starting, high school or college or graduating. Anything, okay, that causes you to have some kind of a grief reaction, and I'll talk about what that.
I was going to say, help us understand what a grief reaction is.
Yeah. So grief reaction has things in it like we may feel sad, and I'm going to use the word sad versus depression because depression is a very clinical word that we throw around in society quite loosely.
Yeah.
Right? So we feel sad. We may end up in a clinical depression over it if we're not able to get a handle on the sadness, but we may do things like bargaining where we say things if only, right? Or I wish I would have, right?
Right.
I can give you an example of a couple that I'm working with now, for example, and one of the things that I hear them say all the time is they wish they would have set better boundaries with their children when their children were growing up.
Okay.
So that's a little bit of a bargaining, can I get a do-over?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. If I could have a do-over, I would do it differently, and then maybe this thing wouldn't be happening.
Maybe, right? Maybe not, but maybe it had to happen in order for the person who it happened to and with to grow the way they were supposed to grow. So, and
that's kind of the idea. At the time, we all do the best we can with what the skills that we have and the knowledge that we have in the moment.
Exactly.
So it doesn't help to look backwards necessarily, though sometimes you can look backwards and say, how would I handle that differently in the future? And you can learn from that, 20/20 hindsight, as they say.
Yeah.
But it could be even things like shock, denial, disbelief. And eventually at some point along the way, there's acceptance, but it may not, and there's anger mixed in there. And usually underneath anger are things like frustration, disappointment, hurt, those kinds of things can be underneath anger. So anger is like a secondary emotion.
Right.
And so the stereotypical that people think of when they think of a grief reaction is the teachings by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who taught that there were like sort of 5 stages to the grieving process, right? And she developed those 5 stages in working with dying patients and then their families. And what we've come to find out is that, there may be way more than 5 stages or 5 different sets of emotions that people go through.
Right.
The number doesn't matter. What matters is that we all go through a process that is right for who we are, that there is no right way to grieve, there's no wrong way to grieve, unless, of course, we're doing things to cause harm to somebody else or ourselves.
Correct. Right. So, and it's funny, we limit it to 5 stages, but within those 5 stages, there are stages within. And that's where I think you see a lot of different emotions and it depends. Everybody handles things differently. It's not a right or wrong thing. That's what always befuddles me, Ellen, is that I people have a certain reaction that they have an expectation for. And if you don't provide that reaction, they have a different thought process. And again, it's none of our business what anybody else thinks. But I find it very amazing as a people watcher. I find it amazing that there's a judgmental stance that if you don't react X way, then something's wrong. Or something's odd. And it's just how people handle things. Some people are talkers. Some people are not. Some people keep things really, really deep and close to vest. And some people kind of throw up on you, with their emotions, their feelings, what they're saying, or anything like that. So I find the grieving process and I find that loss process an interesting concept that you really address and you work on with not only your clients, but with anybody who would listen in on your speeches and taking your courses and things like that. So I love what you do. What's your favorite part about helping people in your clinic and private practice?
In the loss and grief area, and really this is kind of, true across the board, but in particular around loss and grief, I love it when somebody maybe comes to a session and I can tell looking on their face, they're down. Right? They've really been struggling. And then by the end of the session, they're smiling, they're laughing,
Yeah.
So when I start to see that turnaround and somebody's starting to say, oh my gosh, they're having an aha moment, they're getting something that, that they can grasp, that I'm intuitively reaching them. I think my clients a lot of times are really surprised at how perceptive that I am. And that I can pick things up pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, you're also paying attention, Ellen, and that's an important element.
Right.
So
I also think.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that. One of the things that I heard you say right before the most recent question was this idea of that there's so much judgment, and I think a lot of that is in society. There seems to be a general message that it isn't okay to grieve.
Right.
Or it isn't okay to show a lot of emotion. And I think back, so I'm also a part-time instructor at a university, and one of the courses that I teach, well, actually two of them now, is around reading and writing. And when I take a look at the history of writing in our country, going back to the beginning of our country, the writing about that would happen would be only about the good things.
Oh, that's like Facebook. Everybody's happy. Right. Everybody's kids are brilliant.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And most of the writing that happened in the early days was obituaries of famous people, whatever. And so, even if you were to go to a funeral today, do we ever really hear the really, truly, authentic rendition of someone's life,
Right.
that a lot of times we tend to highlight the good, the positive. And so I think at least as an American society, we have not done a good job of talking about the dirty, the grief. And like you and I have been saying, throughout our conversation today, that it's all okay as long as we're not hurting somebody else and that there's, or ourselves, and that there's no time limit on it.
And we can only learn we don't
Right.
learn from successes. We learn from failures. And failure is not a bad thing. It's not a bad word. I used to think it was a bad thing. It's not at all. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to learn more. It's an opportunity to get better. It's an opportunity to grow. So to me, failure is actually somewhat exciting. Not that I really,
Right.
I don't start out and say, okay, I'm going to fail at this. I want to grow. I want to learn. But when I hit those bumps, and that's what I call them, those bumps, those notches, it allows me to take that next step. That's what it's there for. And without contrast, that's negative things that happen. Without contrast, you don't know what you do want. You don't know what is positive. You need to understand what you don't want to understand what you do want. So that grief, that feeling that you're having, you don't want to have that feeling. So what can we do to shift life, shift what we're doing, shift our choices in order to not feel that feeling, to get into a more positive area, a more positive feeling, a more positive thought process, like shifting that, yes, My son is going to college. He's going away, and I'm going to miss him. But the positive vision, or if you change your lens, is that he's growing, and we've created someone who can stand on their own 2 feet, go in and grow themselves by going through this educational process, albeit across country or wherever they are. I know when my son went to Australia, I couldn't think of not letting him go to Australia and supporting that every way which possible. But the thought of him being across the world was nauseating to me. But we do what we need to do so other people can grow, right?
Well, and I like the way that you're sort of talking about this, because it's okay to have both at the same time.
Exactly.
It's okay, like you're saying, to be miserable inside that your kid's so far away, but be joyful at the opportunity that is providing for them and for your relationship with that person, right? And all the other positives that can come from it. You can have both at the same time.
Without a doubt. You are listening to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. We are speaking to Ellen Craine. She is extraordinary. Please don't miss out on the second half. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Lorianne. If you'd like to be a guest or lift up your business, product, or not-for-profit, or if you have a question or comment, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. That's healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. And whether your goal is improving your health, increasing prosperity in business, developing a business and marketing strategy, nurturing your spiritual growth, you're in the right place. I will help you shift your mindset, harness your talents, remove resistance, rise above those limitations, and you will be empowered to create your desired reality as we guide you here. So the results are based on an approach of shifting mindset and achieving your goals in business and life through personalized strategies. And we'll show you how to take your vision to the next level. If you have any interest in that, please visit us at ldcstrategies.com or LorianneCasdia.com. Today on the show, and I am Lorianne Casdia, and you're listening to Healthy Lifestyle with LA. Today on our show, we have Ellen Craine. She is a licensed clinical and macro social worker. She is also, she has served on the Michigan National Association of Social Workers Ethics Committee for approximately 13 years and was the committee's chairperson for a year. She utilizes this experience and passion around ethics. Ellen also provides ethics consultations for social workers, utilizing the National Association of Social Workers Code of Ethics and a model she developed to navigate the social work ethics maze. Totally brilliant. Really power hitter that we have on. Ellen, thank you so much for being here. We really love having you here. So I want to dive back in and ask you, I know what you do, but share with our listeners what you do, because I know you do more than private practice. I know you're an author, multiple time author, international bestseller. Talk to us about who you are, what you do.
Yeah, so thank you. I'm excited because Women Who Dream That We Are In Together is my second #1 international bestseller with the Impact Book series and Kate Butler. So that was kind of fun. And believe it or not, I have another book that I'm launching, a co-authored book that I'm launching with Kate October 26th called Leading with Legacy. So that's coming down the pike. And then I'm also going to be in another book, co-authored book with Kate called Dear Younger Self. So I've got several books coming, and I'm excited about that. I've kind of always dreamed of being an author, and then somebody introduced me to the opportunity with Kate, and it's been a good fit. So I'm going to keep going, I guess, on that as long as I can, and I do some other writing as well. And when I'm not writing, like we said, I do have this private practice where I do see clients privately, and I do social work ethics consultations, kind of a passion of mine. So social workers reach out when they have ethical dilemmas, and I help navigate, like you appropriately said, this ethics maze for them. And one of the tools that I do use is the National Association of Social Workers Code of Ethics, which is a national code that all social workers are bound to follow in social work practice, whether it is clinical practice or community organization or agency work or social policy, whatever it is, we're bound to this code of ethics. But I guess outside of all of that, if that's not enough, right? I am
in your spare time.
In my spare time, well, yeah, there's a couple of things there brewing, but one of the things that I've gotten involved in is being an associate producer of a documentary called Authentic Conversations, Deep Talk with the Masters. And Kate Butler is one of the people that is actually being interviewed in this documentary, as well as Jack Canfield and Patty Aubrey. And we are actually we did an East Coast premiere in May, which was a whole lot of fun. And now we're going to be doing a West Coast premiere October 15th out in California.
Claremont, California at the LeMay Theater 5?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that should be a lot of fun. And I am coordinating producer on the next documentary in this docuseries.
Oh, keep me in mind.
Yeah, so that is really, that's been a whole lot of fun. And then I am a part-time instructor for Eastern Michigan University in their School of Social Work. And so I think, kind of like I alluded to a little bit earlier in our conversation, I teach reading and writing for social workers, two different kinds of writing. One is reading and writing at a more broad level for social workers, and then a real specific reading and writing class for reading and writing within agency practice for social workers. So these are undergraduate social work students that I teach to. And then I also teach a lot of continuing education courses for social workers who are already licensed but need continuing education credits to maintain their licensure. And predominantly it's been here in the state of Michigan, but I just recently got accepted to do a presentation for a conference in North Carolina.
Lovely.
So a National Association of Social Workers North Carolina chapter happening in November. They're doing a 2-day conference. So
beautiful.
They accepted one of my workshop proposals. So, and in my spare time.
Do you have spare time, my friends?
Yeah, in my spare time, I spend time with my kids, our pets, kayaking, gardening, walks in nature,
beautiful.
Being with my friends, just trying to live life to the fullest. And, like you said, I don't want to say like bad things happen, but challenges come up in life, right? And so even, just knowing when those challenges happen, I need to go for a walk, or, I need to go kayaking, or, I need to spend more time with my hands in the dirt. I need to spend more time journaling or meditating or, whatever it is.
Yeah. That deep connection with yourself, because our success codes are within us. And I say that all the time. And I admire all the creativity. And what do they always say is, you want to get something done, give it to a busy person. And dear Lord, that would be you. I love that you love creating a ripple effect in the world around having authentic conversations about difficult topics like loss and grief and others. You make it so approachable and so safe. I love that platform of making it safe. You just have this way about you that is intoxicating, Ellen, quite frankly, that makes people just want to share every bit about them with you. How did you develop that? Is this one of your many special powers? How did you come about doing that?
I believe that it's just me being me.
Authentic, yes.
I don't try to be like any just way. I have stories of like, sometimes I would go like into the grocery store and people would just like stop me and start talking.
Yeah. It happens to me. I'm like, why are they telling me this?
Right. What is going on here? But I've even noticed that I have that like with Aunt, and I think it's just, I think earlier in this conversation you said something about wearing your heart on your sleeve. And I really do think, sometimes to a fault, right? I think it's just me. I don't know how else to describe it. As some people say, it's kind of like my superpower, but I didn't set out. I didn't intentionally say, right, I'm going to be this way. What I know is that if I am present in the moment when I am with people,
yes,
and I say, I am open to the universe.
Yes.
Right? And so I think just by having that mindset, I think it happens very, very naturally. If you ever see me do a workshop, this is pretty much how I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't say, I'm the professional social worker now. I have to change my tune. I have to whatever. I've been known to receive messages in the middle of either working with clients or in the middle of presenting a workshop. And I just have to say to them, I'm getting a download right now. Just trust me.
Yes.
And usually I'm right on.
Yeah, it's amazing and that happens to me as well, as I'll be in the middle of working with clients or in a presentation myself, and I will get a download, and whatever that download is absolutely appropriate for the conversation in that very, very moment. And afterwards, I don't even remember what was said. So it's good that I usually record what I do, because sometimes I'm like, I don't know what just happened, but I hope it was good.
Exactly.
And I usually can tell by their reactions that it's good, but I have no recollection.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Just I'm this one particular client that I'm thinking of, they were like, how did you do that? It's like, they said, it's like you read our mind.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, we send energy back and forth
Correct.
to people, right?
Yes.
And so are we sending an energy that says, I am open? Are we sending an energy that says, I'm approachable, I'm available, I love you, I'm here, I want to support you?
Yeah.
What kind of energy are we putting out there?
Right.
And that's what we're then, getting back.
Without a doubt, because that's where we're vibrating, and we attract people at that same vibration level. You'll notice that too. If you're changing your vibration, if you're changing doing what you're doing, if you start meditating, you're going to see people fall away that no longer serve you, and you're going to see people come into your life that are on the same level, in the same mind track. You sit there and you're like, oh my gosh, you're one of my people. You're one of my tribe members, is what I always say, because at that moment, they're at that same vibrational pull, is what I say. And I think that's a magical place to be. And I love the magic that you send out by being at that vibration. You know what else is magical is that to our listeners here on Healthy Lifestyle, Ellen is offering through her social media groups, Living Through Loss and Grief, and through her Facebook page, Craine Counseling and Counseling Group. She's offering, of course, the Facebook group is free. She invites you in. Please visit her, and it's Craine, Craine. She's inviting you in for a free 15-minute initial consultation through her office. So if you call or you go to Facebook and you let her know that you heard this on Healthy Lifestyle with LA, she will be more than happy to give you a free 15-minute initial consultation. It is definitely worth your while to spend time with this amazing woman. I know every time I have an interaction with Ellen, I grow myself, and there's just something about your energy, Ellen. It's amazing. It really, really puts everybody in this calm sense. You're really good at that. I know a couple of our meetings with all the 30 authors in Women Who Dream, we were a little tense. We had not gone through this before, and you were just absolutely the calming factor of no worries. It'll come. You'll understand. Just trust the process. And I love that about you. I really do. I think that's really amazing.
Well, thank you. And I also want to let people know that I am getting ready to embark upon a women's health healing retreat. And so if anyone is interested, they can email me, Ellen at Craine, Craine, counseling.com, to let me know of their interest. And then I will make sure to let folks know when that's going to happen, and what that will look like and how they can participate.
That's wonderful. Ellen, what's your why? Why do you do what you do?
Oh, my gosh. I do what I do because, actually for a couple of reasons. I do what I do because it is my passion. It is my love to inspire, empower other people on their lifelong journeys, and to normalize whatever it is that they're going through for them, so that they don't feel like they're crazy, because they're absolutely not. They're normal, they're healthy, and it's important to have a good support person. I didn't have that in my life growing up, and I think that's a piece of it. And I also think it's because I see that, it's part of my legacy for my children. Right, of what I wish for them, what I hope for them.
Yeah.
That that they will be open to the universe, that they will have good positive energy. And yes, bad things are going to happen. We've lived it in this family, more times, than I can tell you. But, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And like we said earlier, you can learn, you can grow from these difficult, challenging times, and they're in our lives for a reason. And it's hard to say, how can you say it's a reason that your child had cancer? Mm-hmm. How can you say that there's a reason that you went through breast cancer? But I'm here to tell you from what I've lived, there's a reason why each of these things have happened in my life, and I have grown and expanded from every single one of them.
Yeah. And you lead by example. You really take it head on. My chapter is called Two Choices, and you had two choices. You could have been stuck and stayed where you were, and that's a absolute viable response if that worked for you. You chose to build it bigger and better. You chose to get unstuck. You chose to move forward and help others move through it. And again, for me, that's a real hero. That's heroic to be able to take your experiences, jump that hurdle, jump above the fear and help other people with that fear so they don't have to do it alone. I know what you went through it alone. A lot of what I went through it alone. And just understanding the need of having a support system that allows you to go and say anything you need to say to get it off your chest. And then you can move forward. You just move on and move through it.
Right. And I want my kids to know that you can be hurting and still have joy.
Yes.
That it's okay to feel two sets of emotions at the same time.
Yes, and
that's important.
And how do you do that? How do you substantiate that? Because sometimes you feel guilt for feeling joy when you should be feeling sadness.
Absolutely. And that is all part of that bargaining that we talked about early on as part of the grieving process. Oh, it's not okay that I'm actually feeling joyful.
Right.
And then it's the reality that, it is, even though I still miss this person, or I'm still feeling sad or befuddled, or whatever words you want to use, that, and I think too that, just to take an example from my own life, I believe that my husband, for example, would not want us to be miserable day in and day out. He would want us to be finding joy and living our lives, even though, we miss him terribly.
Yes.
And, we do struggle around typical times that people struggle.
Sure.
Anniversaries and birthdays and all kind, holidays and you name it.
Yeah. It's a hard process because I miss people mostly on the inside in private, and I celebrate people in public and on holidays. And that's the only way I can get through those holidays, when I miss people, when, just to celebrate them, not to, because like you said, I don't think that they would want that in any way, shape, or form. That's not what they want. And I truly believe that they're with us anyway, every single day, with us just in a different, outfit, if you will. It looks different. They're in a different energy.
And then we get these winks and whispers from the universe, right, to tell us that.
Yes.
Like the huge feather that was sitting on my grass, literally sticking straight up in the grass yesterday.
Yes.
And I looked at it and I thought, oh my gosh, or me finding, having literally, I was walking on a beach, Lake Michigan, and I would walk, stop, and all of a sudden these heart-shaped rocks would show up at my feet.
Yes.
And I can't even tell you how many I found. Or the other day, when I went outside and the hose ended up being shaped like a heart, and kind of like, wow,
He's busy.
Right?
He's very busy, and that's a good thing. And yes, those signs are there. You just have to look for them and see them. And the thing is when you see a sign, someone asked me one time, well, how do I know who it's from? And I was like, it's who you think of when you see it.
Exactly. Right.
It's who you think of when you see it.
Yeah. Who do you think of when you see it? I mean, for me, it was my mother, because I was in a place that my mother loved, and I am totally convinced that my mother's spirit is still in that area.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just kept believing. I would walk, like I said, and all of a sudden the waves would wash up, they'd pull back, and there would be like 5 heart-shaped rocks. And I'm going, oh gosh, okay, thanks, Mom.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it amazing? Mine are butterflies. It's usually monarchs in the weirdest places. So they don't typically fly by the ocean. And just recently I was at Davis Park, which is on Fire Island, and I'm sitting down there, and this monarch like buzzed my head twice. And I was like, okay, Mom, I see you. Thank you. Glad you're here.
Right.
You know, and it was just like, and that monarch or a monarch kept buzzing me the whole entire week I was there. And it was just a nice feeling to know that, you know, Mom and Dad are here. They're with me. You know, they're absolutely guiding me. And you definitely get downloads from relatives and things like that if you are so inclined to do so. So you need to be open to things like that. Ellen, you are a treasure. What are final thoughts?
My final thoughts are this has been fun, and I just think that, the more that we can open ourselves up to receiving what the universe has to offer us, the further we're going to go, the healthier we're going to be, and just know that you're not alone when it comes through to addressing issues of loss and grief, and that there's no right way, there's no wrong way to approach it. And, I'm here. Yes,
I love it. Thank you so very much. And thank you for joining us today on Healthy Lifestyle with Lori. And I know you have a lot of choices, and that you spend this time with us we're just so grateful for that. And I want to thank my guest today, Ellen Craine. Remember, Women Who Dream. Her chapter is Living My Dream Through the Fear. Really reach out. Remember to go to her Facebook so that you can take advantage of this very generous gift that she's giving to our listeners. And the Facebook group name is Living Through Loss and Grief. If you are looking for a business coach, accountability, strategy, direction, a sounding board, someone to help streamline your business, or a speaker for an event that you're having, or someone to come in and help you with team training and group meetings and retreats, you feel free to reach out to me at 516-983-3591, and let's see if it's a good fit. I could certainly help you and your team soar to success. And shameless plug, #1 international bestseller. That's right, Women Who Dream, and our bestseller V-Tales Classic Vitality Cocktails can be found on Amazon with my name, or for an author signed copy, go to ldcstrategies.com, Women Who Dream. Thank you again for joining us today on Healthy Lifestyle with Lori Ann. We'll see you next time, next Saturday at 3 p.m. right here on JVC Broadcasting. And you can follow us on iHeartRadio. Until next time, play a higher role, serve a higher purpose, show up for you, and show up big. Have a great day.